if you get your investing and saving tips a lot from social media and influencers and YouTube channels, the finance minister of the country has a warning for you. The finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman has warned the public about the risks of following financial influencers on social media platforms. She said that many of them are driven by their own motives or to promote fraudulent schemes. She was speaking at an event in Bengaluru and she said that while there are some genuine experts who offer sound advice on investing and saving, there are many, 7 out of 10, she says, who mislead people or lure them into dubious apps that promise high returns but are actually Ponzi schemes. And there's a raging debate on whether there should be regulation on financial influencers and YouTube channels that give out financial advice. But the finance minister has said that currently we're not looking at any regulation. But this word of caution and warning coming in from the finance minister is extremely important, given that a lot of us follow advice on social media when we make decisions about our investment. The finance minister says that this is our hard-earned money and we should be careful and need to double check before putting our money somewhere, only trusting what an influencer or a YouTube channel is telling us. Let's listen in to what the finance minister said in her warning.
At this stage, I'm not having any proposal before me for regulating them. But yes, a word of caution is important. If there are 3 or 4 people giving us very objective good advice, there are 7 others out of 10 who are probably driven by some other considerations. There are also apps which are coming out and reaching out to people saying, we can do this, we can do that, your money will fetch you this much. Many of whom are Ponzi, the apps on which we are working with the ministry concerned, the MeitY ministry, and with the Reserve Bank, and clamping down on them like never before, so that we don't get those Ponzi apps taking away hard-earned money. So social influencers, influencers are all out there, but a very strong sense of caution is required in each one of us to make sure that we do double-checking, counter-checking, talking with people. Don't go as a flock into something because somebody else has gone and you also go without doing your due diligence. We have to be careful. It's our hard-worked money. You earned it. You save it. You protect it.
Now, who would be better to understand these comments than financial influencers themselves, along with investment experts? We have some prominent faces of social media joining us on the broadcast right now. Anushka Rathod, who's a financial influencer, joining us. We also have Himani Chaudhary, Shreya Kapoor, and Pranjal Kamra, all of whom are financial influencers. Pranjal Kamra is a YouTuber, author, and popularly known as an investment guru. He's the CEO of Finology. And we also have Nasir Salim, who's the managing partner at Flexi Capital. So let me first start with you, Pranjal Kamra. You heard the finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, as a warning, that warning she gave out. So being a financial influencer yourself, how do you take this warning coming in from the finance minister? Do you also agree with what she's saying?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. In fact, I think she's being generous when she's saying that, 3 or 4 out of 10 are doling out good advice. I think the number is much less, 10%, 15%. So yeah, she's being generous and I absolutely agree to what she said. That's the reality.
Right. So as Pranjal Kamra pointed out, that there are far less people who are giving genuine advice on social media. Anushka Rathod, if I can come to you. So how do we differentiate between who are the influencers who come in this top 10%? Of course, you will say that you're one of the credible ones and nobody will themselves say that I'm somebody you should not trust. So how should people really decide that which financial advice they should take it on their word, or should they not take any financial advice simply on what an influencer is saying, but they should do their own research?
Right. So I'll say there are two kind of content that's out there. The first is advice or people's opinions, and the second is basic facts. So if it's on the first where people are saying that these are the 5 stocks which are going to be multi-baggers, these 10 stocks you should have in your policy, these 2 mutual funds are going to give you 1000% returns, don't listen to them. But if there are videos which are telling you the basics, or if they're telling you just information without giving you any advice, those are the videos you should refer to, and a collective of those videos along with the original policy paper of the instrument that you're investing in or the decision that you're going to make, collate all of that and then make your decision.
So it's important to make that distinction. If somebody is giving you straight up stock names and promising you how much the stock will rise, so that's sort of can be a red flag. And Nasir Salim, if I can get you on this, you're not a financial influencer, but you have a lot to do with investments. So as somebody who knows a lot about investments, would you say that there's a need for a regulation? The finance minister currently has said they're not looking at any regulation, but do you think there's a need for stricter rules on what financial influencers can recommend, what kind of videos they can make? And as Anushka was pointing out, that maybe regulation on them not recommending any specific stocks.
Good evening, Pranchi. I think I completely agree with what the finance minister said. There has to be a distinction here between, education and advice, right? Clearly, we feel that financial influencers can educate. So, for example, if I just give you certain numbers, today, if you look at India's equity to GDP, it's sub 6%, right? In terms of equity contributions that go as reference to the GDP. If you compare this number to the US, it would be higher than 50%. So there is a lot of discussion, great discussions happening around financial inclusion, financial inclusivity, investing in the right sectors, probably in the right asset class. But beyond that, advocating any free advice has always been dangerous. I mean, in my investment career as an investment and personal financial consultant, I can tell you, and also being part of a large multinational bank, we've seen people, getting carried away with advice which is cheaply available. And obviously, from our case studies, which we studied during our MBA days, there's something called the caveat emptor clause that one needs to be kind of familiar with to say that, Pranchi, you can look at advice coming your way, but you need to verify it independently and check it. I'm of the belief that education should not be stopped. Education, giving dissemination of information, provided it doesn't conform to any particular, issues around profits or losses, are welcome step. Anything beyond that should be stopped. Period. And that's where I also feel that SEBI should come in and intervene and say, we've seen many, if I can say so, many unregulated accounts. Earlier you had the blue tick handles of the Twitter earlier in the past. Many of them which were blue tick handles were still welcome, but there were so many others who had many other followers.
Now we don't even have the blue ticks on Twitter.
Exactly. So something like that is a good check. Before you look at any advice from any social media influencer, please look at their own experience. It's great to see that we can recommend 20 stocks, but on what on earth is the basis of that recommendation and what is their own net worth, in my opinion, before giving in any free advice in the market. So these are some key points that I would want to say.
Let me pick out that one point that you made, that people should check whether the account is verified, whether there's a blue tick on that account. And Himani Chaudhary, if I can come to you next on that, as Pranjal mentioned, that it's just about 10% of influencers who are giving out genuine information. And we know, all of us are the best to know that it's not that hard to get a blue tick on Instagram or on Facebook. So is that blue tick really a differentiating factor? Should you trust anybody with a blue tick giving you any information on stocks? What would you say on that?
I don't think blue tick matters as such, because eventually the qualifications and the experience matters with respect to the opinions and the education that they are providing. Blue tick basically gives it a validation that yes, whatever this guy is saying or this woman is saying, it's correct and it is as per, the guidelines. But with respect to the regulation, I think that FM overall, she had a positive opinion about it. She said that, yes, there should be financial advisors who should be giving out advice and education. But the point is that there's certain sections who use it in a different manner. who say that, yes, I am educating you. So trust me, if I am investing in this particular stock, you should also be investing. So that is the bottleneck where, people in India trust very easily, especially when it comes to finance, because they don't go to financial advisors, right? Until unless you're too rich. So if there's someone who has experience in education and they're educating, plus they are now advising as well, that is where people start to trust them. So yes, a blue tick can give validation if it is not, if there is no backing of how if they are going on media or if they are actually very popular or not. They should actually be focusing on what they are doing in real life and how they are portraying it on the camera.
That's a good point and an interesting point to note here. And while all of us are taking this positively right now, and all of us seem to be saying that the warning was needed considering the times we're living in right now, where most of our life is on social media. Shreya Kapoor, being a financial influencer yourself, how do you take this? Do you think that this could reflect negatively for financial influencers, given that the finance minister is saying that don't trust all of them and some of them have their ulterior motives? So do you think this could put financial influencers in a bad light? How do you see it being in the industry yourself?
Right. So Priyanshi, before I answer that question, a couple of points that I'd like to clarify. So as Himanshi mentioned, I think a blue tick more or less is a validation of the PR that you're doing rather than the expertise that you hold. So that's number one. So I don't think blue tick by itself is a very good litmus test of whether or not you should believe in influencer or not. That out of the way, I do not believe that this news brings about a negative connotation when it comes to finance influencers, because we've heard such statements from not just the finance minister, but also other regulatory bodies for the past year or so, right? So a lot of regulations apart from this have also come about in picture. Like, for example, you have to very clearly mention whether or not a particular video is a paid promotion or not, right? Whether or not this has to be taken as financial advice or not, or what background do you hold. So all of these regulations are already in place when it comes to finance influencers. And I would say a lot of them are already abiding by it, very honestly. And if they are not, I think this regulation should be a very good reminder of what should be done and what's the right thing to do. Apart from that, I think this is a very good recognition of the fact that finance influencers are being recognized for the work that they're doing, more or less. They're important enough for them, for it to be recognized by the finance minister. And I personally believe that a lot of them are only bridging the gap between the plethora of financial information that exists in the market and what can be consumed by someone who has no financial background whatsoever. So our main job is to just bridge that gap. And as I think Anushka mentioned it beautifully when she said that there are two kinds of finance influencers who are there in the market today. One who are giving you advice about the stock market, that okay, these are the stocks that are going to become multi-baggers. And then there are people who are giving you genuine advice about, say, for example, which income tax section you can use as a freelancer to save taxes, right? So a very good litmus test should also be the fact that just look at the videos, the kind of videos that influencer has been putting out for a while, because they've been putting out content for quite some time, number one. That should be a very good litmus test, that how long has it been that they've been creating content. If it's just been a month or two, that should be a red flag, right? Because they're probably just doing it for like a quick scheme and then getting out of the market. So if they've been in the market for a year plus, that should be a very good litmus test. Number two, how active they are in addressing the concerns that are coming in the comment section. So you'll see a lot of finance influencers are very active in addressing the problems that people are raising in the comment section or the DMs. And that's something that you can very easily check by just, looking at the videos of the past 1 month or so. And even if you look at these two things, another thing to keep in mind is that even if someone's giving you personal advice without any vendetta, even then you take it with a pinch of salt, because personal finance at the end of the day is very personal, right? So
and while you mentioned that litmus test, I think we need to talk about that a little more, because that's what really helps us understand how do we differentiate. Pranjal Kamra, if I can come to you on that. So when we talk about that litmus test and those red flags that we see that we could use to differentiate between these accounts, do you also agree that there are these couple of points that you need to look out for, whether the account is verified, since when are they have they been putting out videos, whether they're giving you generic investment advice, or whether they're specifically mentioning some stocks? Are these the red flags? Would there be some more that you want to give an advice for to your viewers?
Oh, absolutely. See, I think, firstly, blue tick is completely irrelevant in deciding. Blue tick is more of an anti-piracy, anti-trademark infringement measure, that this is the original ID of the creator and there are various others. That's the primary purpose. Having said that, I am a little of a black and white on this. I think, as an influencer doing this since a long time, I'll tell you why I got SEBI registered. The simple reason was, I started off providing generic information, educational videos. But in the course of doing that, it's impossible not to give finance advice. So for example, I'm making an educational content saying what are index funds. What will I as a creator do if I get 100 comments asking, should I invest in HDFC index fund? Do I say yes? Do I say no? Do I say consult your financial advisor? If I say consult your financial advisor, they won't come back. As an influencer, most of the time, it's impossible not to go down that route and actually be a quasi-advisor. So to me, it's very clear. If someone, you could have a threshold that, monthly, if these many people are watching you, if you have certain size, this number of traction, get registered. Because understand the purpose of registered investment advisor regulation. The regulation came back 10 years ago. The purpose of the regulation was to actually regulate the medium through which the advice was coming. And 10 years ago, advice was coming primarily offline. So if now advice is coming primarily online, I think it defeats the purpose of the regulation if the primary source of information medium is not regulated. So I think two filters. One, simply if you're taking financial advice, check the SEBI website. It has a list of all registered intermediaries. So check who is a registered RIA and take financial advice for them. And second, this is a very personal sort of a method to filter out whom to trust. So if there is a finance influencer who is promoting everything that's trending. So 2 years ago, if he or she is promoting cryptos, 2 years ago, if he or she is promoting IPOs, and probably last year, if they are promoting buy now, pay later cards, anything that's new and that's being promoted. In the last 3 years, we have seen 3 trends: buy now, pay later cards, cryptos and IPOs. So if anyone goes with what's hot, which is being publicized and where there's a lot of money and they're constantly changing track, I think that's a very good sign.
And you mentioned the point about getting SEBI registered. So are you saying that we should only take financial advice on social media from somebody who, let's say, has a background, or let's say somebody who's a CA or who's registered on SEBI? So if they have a qualification or a required registration, we should take advice from them and not the rest. Are you putting it that way?
See, again, I mean, basic understanding, if you're Googling what are stocks, or what is mutual fund, primary education regarding what these instruments are, probably all internet is open. But once you're deciding the specifics, index fund or active fund, credit cards or debit cards, pure term or ULIP, once you're getting down the specifics is where you move on to a registered investment advisor.
Right, that's a very important advice to note. And in fact, I'd be lying if I say that I haven't taken any tip from social media or I have not been influenced by any finfluence. And I think that's fine. That's something that a lot of us do. So getting an idea or getting even a tip from social media, but what's important is to do your own research after that and not take it on its word, but discover it on a case-to-case basis. It might be right for somebody else. It might not be right for you. Everybody has a different risk appetite and your investment is based on that. So Anushka Rathod, while we've made those distinctions clear on who to trust, whom to not trust, and how to really take investment decisions, let me ask you this. Being a finance influencer yourself, would you say that there are regulations needed in this space? Would you say that there needs to be rules on what financial influencers can recommend in terms of the stocks or the funds that they can recommend? Do you think there need to be rules controlling that?
Definitely, because at the end of the day, we all want what's best for our viewers, for the people who are watching the content. So if like 2 people are saying something wrong about, say, a credit card or generally advising stocks or FPOs or IPOs which are not doing well, that hampers us or that creates a negative connotation for us as a finance creator industry in the whole. So there should be regulations so that people know that they can trust or they can consume information from us. And if we talk about only taking advice from SEBI registered advisors, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but SEBI registered advisors have to know the exact requirements and the risk profile of the people before suggesting to them. And on a larger platform, that's not possible. So with these regulations, what will happen is we won't be people who are giving out direct advices or people who are talking about their own portfolios and telling people, I am investing here, and that's not advice, right? You're just talking about what you are doing, but you don't realize that people are taking it as an advice. If you're telling I'm investing, say 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs in a particular stock, people will obviously think, oh, they're investing 10 lakhs, I can probably invest 5,000. So all these things, these minute these segues that people come out with, loopholes that people have, these all need to be kept in check, so that as an industry, we all creators, we can do our work and the consumer is protected as well.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's about simplifying these very complicated, this technical jargon, the financial jargon for the common people. And Nasir Salim, let me just come to a wrap with you. While we've had all the financial influencers who've joined us agreeing to what the finance minister is saying, and they themselves say that there should be some sort of regulation and some sort of control in what influencers are putting out there. You must have also seen such content going around. So do you think that a lot of financial influencers, even with a blue tick, make some reels or some content, some videos only to get the views with some clickbait information that's not safe for the consumers?
No, absolutely, Pranchi. We've seen many, where many of such handles have gone in. I mean, I don't want to take any names on your show, Pranchi, but there are many instances in the past where we've seen categorically certain stocks being pushed, certain stocks being promoted, and from very, very reliable sources. Now, the point is very, very simple. I think I agree with my fellow panelist, Pranjal, when he says so very, very clearly. As I said, there are two distinctions. Number one is, somebody who is a generalist and giving out just general recommendations, or just getting you to be introduced to the world of finance and personal finance and investing. And then comes in somebody who's a specialist, who's got a certain number of years of experience behind him, and comes in with relevant certifications to kind of engage and solicit investment recommendations, stock advice. Now, SEBI has been very, very clear since 2013. They've made a distinction between intermediaries as MFDs and the other advisors as RIA, registered investment advisors with SEBI. And I must tell you, people who are none of the other two, which is mutual fund distributors, RIAs, there is another category called research analysts who are certified by SEBI. They come in and they talk about, they are certified, analysts who can talk about certain stocks. But again, that still doesn't ensure that they could be completely ethical or correct. So the point is, one needs to be, the only submission I have to your viewers is they should be looking at any recommendation, any advice, because very carefully and clinically, they must verify it. Today, there are many platforms to go and check that. You can speak to your consultants, you can speak to experts, you can also do self-reading. And just on the sheer easy access to social media, you should not be putting in, investing in hard-earned money. I think the bigger message here is learning can happen, but not at the cost of losing money and or near short-term gains. Money has never been made in short-term, Priyanshi, I must tell you.
Right.
We've seen these cycles, and it's always been a patient game and a self-learning process.
Right. Well, I guess the message is loud and clear. Nobody has anything against financial influencers, and all of them even welcome the finance minister's comments. But the only point is that you need to be careful when trusting anybody's advice. Something might be right for one person, but might not be right for somebody else. If somebody is recommending a share for you, that might be right for people who can take a higher risk, but might not be right for somebody with a lower salary who's looking for a safer investment. So that's just an example showing how this advice on social media is not one size fits all. You need to take it with a pinch of salt, do your own research, check the background of the person who's recommending this information, who's giving out this information on social media as well. And that's the red flags that the financial influencers on our show have also pointed out too, that you need to check the background, you need to check the kind of information that's being put out, and that's important to keep your money safe and not fall into any traps that are currently going on social media. So it's very important to be aware of that and save your hard-earned money. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us and for those very interesting comments from the financial influencers and Nasir Salim. Thanks very much for joining us and really decoding what people need to be careful of.